This is the final word. T20 World Cup Daily Day 12. I'm going to say 12.
I think it is, yes.
I'm feeling 12.
Yep.
Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins with you. The show brought to you by CBUS Super, making hard work pay off. Well, it paid off for a couple of cricket teams today, and it didn't pay off for a couple of others. India played Netherlands, and South Africa played Bangladesh. So first, we're going to rip into the second of those games. Adam, what happened? India, Netherlands, 30 seconds.
Yeah, Sydney Cricket Ground, India won the toss and batted. Rohit Sharma made a half-century, albeit not out of the blocks in rapid form. They were 53 from 9 overs, but they made 126 runs at 11.5 an over thereafter, which meant they got up to 179 for 2. Kohli, 60-odd not out. SKY made his half-century from the final ball of the innings, bringing it up with a big 6. Then Netherlands in reply. They were stuffed in the power play, 27 for 2. A wicket maiden for Bhuvi, one of 2 maidens he sent down in the first 6. Netherlands had no chance. They were bowled out. Well, they weren't bowled out. They were 9 down for 123 in the 20th over, which meant that India win their second game by 56 runs.
Do you think SKY will get sponsored by a vodka brand and add a second Y? Maybe, Surya Kumar Yadav.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching his international debut a couple of years ago in the T20 format, bouncing out of a couple of excellent seasons in the IPL. And the word on the street from our friends in India was that this guy could be the best player in the world in this form of the game. And on the evidence of what we've seen, against South Africa recently, when he was extraordinary in the last 5 overs of one win there, and tonight just getting that chance to get his teeth stuck into the tournament, I can't wait to see him around the country. We're back in Melbourne, by the way, Jeff. We should say, if you're watching the YouTube version, our check shirts were such a hit last night that I'm wearing my other Melbourne flannel check shirt here this evening. We're actually on Smith Street, which is, I think Time Out described it. It might be another website. I think it was Time Out. The coolest street in the world, which is where I'm staying this week. I got my hair cut today by Kizzy down at Kenneth Jeffries, where we had your haircut a couple of years ago and had the final word shaved into the back of your bonds.
Yeah, you can find that. It's still up on YouTube. So Kenneth Jeffries is the joint. If you want to go down and get words, don't ask her to shave words into your head. She was like, I don't like doing this. I'm going to reluctantly do it for you idiots.
It was the night of the Sydney drawn test, wasn't it? When the Great Escape with who was that?
Ashwin.
Hanuma Vihari with a torn hamstring and Ashwin with
Shaggers
back.
Phrase. Hanuma Vihari. Ashwin's back was gone and Vihari's hamstring.
That's right. Had the hammy left. Yeah.
So
good memories on the YouTube final word page. A long time ago though.
Yeah. I mean, a long time for YouTube, which we haven't been on for that long, but that was right back at the beginning. For the Dutch, it felt like one of those games where, look, if there's that much of a power imbalance between the two teams, then the Battling team needs everything to go right. And that happened for Ireland against England to the first half of both innings. And Netherlands had this, it was almost there for a bit. There was the drop catch off Rohit Sharma. There was the edge, the 6 that just carried over deep third and carried for 6 when it could have been caught. Just those little moments where you're like, well, if that went their way and that went their way, then maybe they would have been able to apply pressure. And they did apply pressure up until almost the halfway mark of the innings. I mean, India couldn't score quickly up until the end of the 9th over. That was 50-odd by the end of the 9th over.
Yeah.
And then it was the quality of India's batting that told. Then it was Kohli and SKY doing the thing that they do so well and just putting the foot down so hard that the Dutch heads were spinning. Yeah,
doing that thing they do, the wonders. The Oneaters. There's a niche 90s film reference for you. Tom Hanks, if you're watching.
Tom Hanks, you very much.
Look, KL Rahul's out early, right? Van Meekeren again. He's got a number of players out league before in his tournament. They don't review it. And you're right. I mean, the squeeze was on. You go through the power play overs. There was 2 off Pringle. There was 4 off Deleta, 5 off Klaassen and 4 off Van Meekeren. 4 of the 6 overs were tidy. One big one in there too. Rohit Sharma is dropped in the 5th over. Tim Pringle, who's been our boy with the glasses. And it was probably the easiest of the chances the Dutch have dropped. I think Dirk Nannes made this point on commentary that they've dropped a few chances, but that was probably the most straightforward, and you could see his exasperation in his face. He knew what a big moment that could be, dropping Rohit, and what might play out, and so it did. It was over number 11. They take 11 off Pringle there. Sorry, it was over 10 first before the halfway mark. It was Rohit taking on Deleta. That 6 over fine leg. On another day, that's taken on the boundary, but just carries into the crowd. Enough pace there from the young gun from Holland. And then they start putting the foot down. It's big over after big over. Every over seemingly is double digits. So going at 11.5. And Kohli, who to that point is able to play the anchor, going at a strike rate of roughly 100. he shifts through the gears, and he's got the best possible finisher with him. We've already talked about Surya Kumar Yadav, but the way that he in the last 3 or 4 overs was able to dominate the strike, clear the ropes on 3 occasions, it didn't really matter what the Dutch were doing, because the Indian batters in the top 3 or 4, they are so conditioned to speeding up in the last 4 or 5 overs due to the IPL. They play so much short-form, high-quality T20 cricket that it doesn't matter if you're getting it right. They have so many options. They're so versatile.
Yeah, exactly. There's that lack of knowing exactly how to bowl to players in that sort of mood with that many weapons at their disposal. A good night for Kohli, 62 not out. So that means, if you look at Kohli's bogey team, the Dutch. Well, it's been the Dutch. In one-day international cricket, he averages over 50 against everybody except Pakistan, 48.5, England's about 43, 44, and the Dutch, 12. Averages 12 against the Dutch in one-day cricket.
Tendo?
I'm sure he's only played them once, but look, let's not ruin stats by getting too deep into it. He averages 12 against the Dutch, and he'd never played them in T20 cricket. So now he doesn't have an average against them in T20 cricket because he was 62 not out. So he's still cumulatively across all the formats averaging 12 because he doesn't have an average in T20s.
Can we talk about Bhuvi?
Please.
Bhuvi is a guy who seemingly is injured for half the year. When he plays, he's unhittable most of the time. He's always the first name, well, from the bowling perspective on the team sheet in the Indian T20 side, even if he finds himself rather out of favour in Test cricket, and even occasionally one-day cricket. He's not always in the best 11, but
he's
in
also
T20
the
cricket,
first one targeted by a lot of fans. As soon as he has a bad game, they go, too slow,
not quick enough,
too slow,
nah,
can't do it, too slow, and then he comes back and dominates.
Well, Vikram Singh tonight didn't have an answer, so he tried to smash him out the ground a couple of times, got nowhere near it, not in the same postcode. And Vikram Singh will improve, by the way. He's 19 years of age, had one good game in the tournament against Namibia, I think it was. He'll have better days and he'll be better for this experience, but he was out to Bhuvi, bowled, playing on all over it at the start of his second over. But back-to-back maidens, I pulled out this stat from CricBuzz that read that Bhuvaneshwar Kumar is now bowled 8th and 9th tonight, 9 maiden overs in T20 international cricket. Only one other man has bowled 9 maidens in this form, Jasprit Bumrah, who's not available for this tournament. So it gives you, again, some sense of what an effective bowler he's been at the top for so long. 2 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for none. And from there, I mean, really, the depth of the Dutch, which has been a selling point. They've been able to do it tough in tight chases in the qualifying stage, but where do they go? Who do they attack? Do they go at Ashwin? Do they go at Akshar Patel? Do they go at Mohammad Shami? No one's going to give them any latitude at this stage of the game.
Yeah, well, if you're Iftikhar Ahmed, you can go at Akshar Patel, but it's a little more difficult when you're chasing, nigh enough to 200.
Yeah.
And it's such a big total, and the way that wickets fell was exactly the way you expect wickets to fall. Pretty much everybody just bombing to the outfield, coming in, poking around for a couple of overs, bombing one to deep mid-wicket or deep backward square, or hitting one straight up in the air that comes down and gets caught about 2 metres from the stumps, because they just had to swing hard, sweet chariot, and the Indians came to carry them home.
Yeah, that's right. So Ashwin gets a couple of wickets in there. Bhuvi finishes with 2 for 9 from 3. Shami gets in the book. And Arshdeep picked up 2 for 27. Got the last wicket.
You got the last one. More. Got the last 2 in consecutive balls. More on that in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. No, I'll take that on notice. But yeah, so the Dutch, I guess we're getting towards the end of their tournament. We've watched a lot of them. We've spoken a lot about them. They'll keep playing through this group stage, but it feels like we've reached that state, that point you can often see in a tournament where a team can come out of the blocks well, and what a great triumph it was making the main draw. A lot needed to go right on that final night at Geelong, and so it did, with Namibia losing to the UAE. But I don't expect they're going to be a giant killer. They don't have that energy about them at the moment, but they've got to use this little window ahead of them now. Players like Max O'Dowd, who is world class, Paul Van Meekeren, who's bowling in the 140s, Baz Delita, who should play franchise cricket around the world. If you're a BBL club, you should sign up Baz Delita now, because get him, invest in him. Why not? Vikram Singh we've already talked about before, but players like maybe Tom Cooper will be playing in his last World Cup. Colin Ackerman hasn't played an awful lot since starting with the Dutch in 2019. I'm not sure whether he'll be part of their plans in the future, although I think he probably top scored tonight. So, they've got to make a few decisions about the future here as well.
They're yet to play Zimbabwe. They'll have Pakistan, and they'll have South Africa, which could be a grudge match because of, at least for the South African-born players who are in the Dutch side as well. So you never know. I mean, they may still pull a rabbit out of the hat at some stage. They've still got 3 games to play, and they've got to have that mentality. I think this would have been the one of all of them where they would have assumed they were going to get bashed up, and they did get bashed up, but they didn't get completely put to the sword.
No, because, well, you go back to that first 9 overs, plenty to draw from there. You know what? They just keep the stumps in play all the time. They just, by contrast to England yesterday in the power play, by the way, who barely had the stumps in play and paid the price for it, but they backed themselves and they've got a method taking pace off the ball that works for them. And they did bat out their overs, which isn't for nothing, considering at one point they were 70 for 7 or something like that. Van Meekeren hits 3-4s at the end.
And that last over was expensive as well. They took runs from it. So India go top of the group, 2 from 2. South Africa have that shared match, that 1 point when they weren't able to play out the win against Zimbabwe. So, but India still have a lot of work to do because they've got South Africa to come, and that's going to be a challenging contest, and they've got Bangladesh to come. So they've still got a couple of reasonably tough games, and Zimbabwe have been really good on occasion in the last few games. Like in the last year or two as well. They've got some momentum going into it. So it's not like India's 2 from 2, they're qualified.
Sure,
they've got work to do.
No, they do. They've got 3-4 members.
And South Africa are playing bloody well.
Well, let's go to them. Good. So South Africa played Bangladesh in the first game at the SCG today.
Yep.
Jeff, you do that in 30 seconds, and we'll move on.
All right, Temba Bavuma out in the first over, and then Quentin de Kock and Aurelia Rousseau went absolutely bananas. They put on 168 record partnership in all T20 World Cups. Quentin de Kock got out for a 50. Riley Rousseau made a ton and got out late. They were able to slow it down in the last 5 overs. The Bangladeshis, Sumya Sarko came out and went ballistic off the first over. They were 29 for none off a couple of overs, and then it all went horribly wrong. They couldn't cope with Anrek Nortje, who took 3 wickets in quick time, 3 for 4 at one stage, and it all fell away from there. They got nowhere close, Bangladesh, as they got bowled out.
All out for 101 halfway through the 7/8 over. Yes, Sumya Sarko, which is one of the more satisfying names in cricket to say, like Ricardo Vasconcelos. Sumya Sarko comes out of the blocks in that chase, and I dared to dream for a couple of moments. We saw the way that Shantor batted the other day, and Mossadegh up the list today. I saw Mossadegh was carded at 6, not 8. They finally are listening to me, Bangladesh cricket, but the fact that they shelled 205 for 5, and Riley Rousseau, I watched him bat a lot in the English summer for Somerset, where he dominated the Vitality Blast, and it's a good story really, because remember that Riley Rousseau, he left the South African setup to become Kolpak just when he was becoming a true star of the white ball game. He made a couple of hundreds against Australia in the one-day tour of 2016, and and he played in that World Cup in 2015 in Australia and New Zealand, and it felt like he was ready to be a senior white ball player, and he took the money. He went to play county cricket, but now the fact that,
you can't do that anymore.
The EU no longer is the jurisdiction that the UK are in. It's opened the door for players like Riley Rousseau to return to international colours. And on days like today, I'm so pleased that's the case, because he's still clearly a superstar. On his day, the way he hits the ball, it's right up there with the top handful in the world. Yeah,
and look, it's unsubtle the way he goes about it. So pretty much what happened was he murdered the spinners and he climbed into anything that was short from the quicker bowlers. He's so good off the back foot. But he also, anything that was not really short but just kind of on a length, he was just baseballing it. He was just hitting straight, back past the bowler, over the bowler, so hard. I mean, frighteningly, you don't want to be a bowler. You feel like you're getting lined up. So he's not gracefully caressing cover drives or playing a lot of scoops or whatever it is. He's basically just standing there and T-balling it. Anything that he can get on any sort of length, back down the ground or over the leg side. It was unsophisticated, but it was very, very effective.
And a pretty good dance partner in Quentin de Kock, who was left stranded in that chase the other day, where I still think, the more I've thought about it, Jeff, your point from the other night was contested in the comments. I think that is just, if they'd lost wickets in that 4th or 5th over, it wouldn't have affected their target. Anyway, that's a moot point. I only raised that
I think
to
they
say
would still have been ahead of their target. But that doesn't mean.
But once you reach your target, anyway, this was being delved into in the comments. But
if it were redone to be a 5 over target, but at that point it was a 7 over target.
So de Kock was 44 not out or something ridiculous in that game. Picked up from where he left off, 63 from 38, 3 sixes. They put on 168 in about 13 and a half overs. At the point de Kock gets out, it looks like, or just before he gets out, it looks like these two are going to whack them through to 220, 230, 240, something like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're well on track. He ends up 63 off 38, and he's the anchor. He's just chilling out at the other end for the most part.
I've said nice things about Riley Rousseau. I'll just balance that a wee bit.
Okay.
I think Rousseau's on 96 when de Kock gets out, and he takes 4 overs, I think it is, to get to 100. I'm not saying that he was endeavouring to change the way he batted. It's just the mind games of getting to three figures.
Well, you know what?
It can kind of mean that all the planning and all the preparation and all the analytics that go into T20 cricket, when you've got a personal milestone, the clarity of thought seems to go out the window. And it's a shame because it lends itself to criticism when it was such a wonderful innings. I wish that we weren't talking about it, but it does stand out because they only get to 205 when they were on track for probably a lot more.
Exactly, and they had Tristan Stubbs come out, and it affected him as well. He was not quite sure what to do, whether he should be looking for singles. They were little ones being dabbed into the offside and the onside when you're in the last 5 overs of a T20. That's not Tristan Stubbs' job, and there were other times when he was trying to hit big but finding the boundary riders along the floor. I mean, it was also back-to-back hundreds for Riley Russo because he made one in his previous outing as well. So, I mean, that's a pretty rare achievement, but 29 for 3 off the last 5 overs, they end up losing because Markram comes out and he can't get one out of the middle.
Keeps trying to play those little reverse
he's trying to
lap things from his, but not from like down on the ground, from like around armpit height. It seemed like
doesn't work.
Just fucking whack it, mate.
4 for 35 from the last 34 deliveries. So they were barely going at a run a ball for the last 5.5 overs of a game in which they had dominated for the first 15. And it just didn't add up. It didn't make sense. And I think it was the 100. I think that did throw people off. So, it's not only in England where the 100 is ruining cricket.
Mustafiza only conceded 25 from his 4 overs. It's a note for him. Amongst the carnage, a guy who made his name in the IPL 4 or 5 years ago now would have been Mustafiza, and he's played in a number of global tournaments. But, just when Tuscan Ahmed looked like he was going to be the attack leader, Mustafiza's like, hang on, mate. I'm the guy with the tricks. But Bangladesh beaten. That's the biggest result in the tournament so far by runs, 104 runs. So Bangladesh's run rate gets given a thrashing. So they'll need to win, even though they did win their first game of the Super 12s against the Dutch a couple of days ago. They're already in that situation where if they lose another game, they're probably cooked.
And Shakib Al Hassan as captain. Look, maybe I'll do his game in the Hall of Fame as well. Okay. Let's go to that.
Okay, well, I'm ready to do that if you are. Jeff, we're going to go to the final word Hall of Fame for CBUS Super, making hard work pay off. This is where we choose the most final word moment of the day. We've been going through since we've had CBUS back on board, and God bless them for being with the final word, cbussuper.com.au. Where they fit in with the world, for those who haven't been with us for a long time. 8.88% average returns off over the last 38 years. That is a significant number. They've been around since 1984, member-owned. We talked about their low fees because they reinvest all their money back to their members and their $74 billion of funds under management. What about their investment, Jeff? Because when they have the opportunity, such as it is with national savings, that's what superannuation is, to invest more generally in the economy and in the community, but they don't just invest in anything willy-nilly.
They have an ethical investment framework, and it just means that they try not to invest in horrible stuff that hurts people, which is nice. It's nice to know that your retirement isn't like wrapped up in the arms industry or like big tobacco or that kind of thing.
Well, specifically, they don't get involved in the production of controversial weapons or tobacco products, and they consider environmental, social and governance risks and opportunities when making investment decisions. It's one of the myriad reasons why we love working with cbussuper.com.au. Past performance is not
a reliable indicator of future performance.
And you should consider getting your super sorted out as well. If you haven't got your super sorted, do it today. cbussuper.com.au. Jeff, you've got nominations.
Shakib Al Hassan, captaining 2 left-handers at the crease, going supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And he was like, I'm just going to wait till one of them gets out until I come on and bowl. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. And eventually he had to come on and bowl. 21 off the over, including a no-ball 6. The no-ball 6 has been a bit of a theme in this World Cup so far. And he threw one into the bucket. And then when he came out to bat, and we didn't give Anrik Nortje enough love before, he got clocked at 154 k's an hour during today's game.
Wow. Because he took 3 wickets in 2 overs at the start, didn't he?
He took one first with his first ball. He got the edge behind of Sumya Sako, who just didn't really know where it was and was just poking at it. Then he smashes over the stumps of Shanto, and then he comes back and gets Shakib LBW. And that's the other bit of Shakib's day. Fairway outside leg stump, doesn't review it, just walks off, and then sees it on the TV in the dressing room as he goes in.
And smashes the shit out of the dressing room with his bat, I hope.
Well, I think so, but we only saw him in the dugout. But if you're a left-hander and you've got a right armer firing one in at you, and it's hitting you on the pad, there's a pretty good chance it's hitting outside the line. It's pitched outside the line of leg stump. So maybe should have had a look at it, but also he was busy falling over with his head way outside off stump. So how is the player supposed to know whether that's right or wrong? It's another reason why DRS in the hands of the players, in my opinion, doesn't work, because by the time he was off the ground, we knew that wasn't out.
Good point. I like it. Two nominations from me. One I've already gone through. It was Boovies maiden and wicket maiden in consecutive overs. The second, we touched on it, but Tim Pringle, it was such a relate, because he looks like a club cricketer. And that's no disrespect to the kid, by the way. Serious player. I like Tim Pringle. I think he'll play a lot of international cricket. He'll take loads of wickets. I expect to see him on the franchise circuit soon enough as well. But you know that sense when you've dropped a catch. At international level, they try and hide it well. You know, they're clapping the next ball. They're encouraging the bowler. They're trying to not have that shot on an ISO cam of them mouthing to themselves, "Oh my God!" And that's what Tim Pringle does. He goes, "Oh my God!" About 3 minutes later, you know, if he looked like a club cricketer, it felt like club cricket, and thus I felt a kinship with him at that particular moment.
And my last one is the Arshdeep Singh saga. The when he comes up, he takes a wicket.
It
Great
could be a film.
He pitches very full and hits the toe of. Who did he hit the toe of? I can't remember who he was bowling to at this point. Long review. The review takes a real long time. Was there an inside edge? All the rest of it. And by the time it
Van Beek.
Van Beek, Logan Van Beek. By the time,
No, sorry, it was Clarkson League before. My apologies. I misled you.
You've misled me, if you want to pronounce it differently. So, blows Clarson's boot off. By the time the decision comes through, Arshdeep Singh is back down on the boundary, because that was the last ball of his over. He's back down getting a drink because he thinks it's going to be given not out.
Right.
Then he turns around and sees it on the screen and goes, and it falls to his knees. And so then he comes back to bowl the last over of the game, and he's on a hat-trick, which he didn't expect to be on. And he bowls a horrible delivery way down the leg side.
I was wondering about the hat-trick, because was the hat-trick... in the middle of that, was there a wide or a no ball? I feel like
no,
it was two consecutive.
Yeah, it was two wickets, and then he was on a hat trick and absolutely butchered it, and then got pounded off the remaining 5 balls of the over. So sometimes it rains, sometimes the sun's out. You never know. The Great Leveller, our Final Word Hall of Fame, is brought to you by CBUS Super, making your hard work pay off. We should wrap it up here. We're back in Melbourne tomorrow. Well, the games are back in Melbourne. I'll be honest with you, it has rained all day today. La Nina is taking effect, and the day before and the day before. Don't get angry, though. Don't say they shouldn't have World Cups in Australia in October. This is an unusual weather event. La Nina, you can't schedule tournaments based on that happening. Yeah. That would be nonsense. So if you want to get angry at Spanish children, because that's who that weather pattern is named after, and presumably they're behind it somehow. I don't know what they're up to, but it's something. Yes, so we'll be at the Melbourne Cricket Ground tomorrow for Afghanistan and Ireland, followed by the elimination final of sorts, Australia and England. If you want to get your hair done, Kenneth Jeffries down the road here, why not? Why wouldn't you want to come to Smith Street? Visit melbourne.com. We don't talk about them during this show, but why not? Or you could just you just ride around in the rain wearing your rain visor like me, so that you don't get rain in your glasses. That's what this is for. All right. It's very useful, and then it doesn't matter what your hair looks like because it's wet. Thanks for watching. Patreon.com/The Final Word. If you really like what we do and you want to contribute to our other shows that we make, there are many of them. YouTube, Instagram, all the other places you can follow us, and we'll do it all again tomorrow. Final Word Daily, Day 12, done. Later, dudes.